So today's reading is about the real alternative. In life, each of us is confronted with hundreds, even thousands of decisions about what to do with our time. Many struggle with choices of where to go, what to do, and with whom. How are we to decide what will bring happiness in the midst of so much complexity? How are we to avoid dead ends? In this program, there is a road to happiness the world cannot offer, a road leading in a different direction, a real alternative. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader today is Kathy S.
There is a tendency to think the world can offer consolation and escape from problems that its purpose is to keep. Why should this be? Because it is a place where choice among illusions seems to be the only choice, and you are in control of outcomes of your choosing. Thus you think within the narrow band from birth to death, a little time is given you to use for you alone. A time when everyone conflicts with you, but you can choose which road will lead you out of conflict and away from difficulties that concern you not. Yet they are your concern. How then can you escape from them by leaving them behind? What must go with you, you will take with you, whatever road you choose to walk along. Be not deceived.
So in the metaphor here, life has many paths, many roads in which you can choose. And there's a tendency to think that some roads are going to lead you to contentment, to escape from the problems of the world. Mind you, the roads that we're talking about here are all the roads that would seem on the surface of the world, that the world would offer, that the world of illusions would offer. We'll get to the alternative in a moment, but first we want to clearly recognize the nature of the illusion. So there's many choices, and there's a tendency to believe if you just make the better choice, then you'll find contentment. This is the illusion that there are amongst the solutions the world offers, that there are some. One of the, in a prosperous economy, people tend to think if you just make enough money, then happiness will come from that. Or you can go on down the list. We won't bother to call out all the things that the world offers. It says if you just get enough of this, then you'll be content. How then can you escape from this sense of difficulties and conflicts in whatever road you take? Well, the truth is, whatever path you take, you carry your self-concept along with you. This is little recognized. The same self that feels as though I'm not happy and the world is full of challenges and problems, no matter what path you take, you carry that concept of yourself along with you. Be not deceived in this matter.
Real choice is no illusion, but the world has none to offer. All its roads but lead to disappointment, nothingness, and death. There is no choice in its alternatives. Seek not escape from problems here. The world was made that problems could not be escaped. Be not deceived by all the different names its roads are given. they have but one end, and each is but the means to gain that end, for it is here that all its roads will lead, however differently they seem to start, however differently they seem to go. Their end is certain, for there is no choice among them. All of them will lead to death. On some you travel gaily for a while before the bleakness enters, and on some the thorns are felt at once. The choice is not what will the ending be, but when it comes.
So the key idea in this paragraph is the concept of choice. And what is being said is the roads that the world offers seem to be a choice, but all those choices, we just said, you carry yourself with you, you carry your self-concept along with you. And so in reality, it's not really a choice at all. And so it becomes the question, what choices do we have? And there's this concept that we are going to introduce is you do have a real choice, a real alternative from the roads that the world offers, but it won't be obvious to you at first what that real choice is. It's one of the most quoted statements by Course in Miracles students is, I had no idea there was an alternative from the thing that had occurred to my mind. There is a real choice, but it won't occur to your mind using the thinking and the perceptual system of the world. So we'll get to that real choice in just a moment. Sandra?
Yeah, I think I would like to put some more emphasis on this whole escapism that goes on this planet. And it's just, I mean, it goes from governments, and people thinking, well, let the government take care of it. I don't want to deal with these problems. And it's really about taking personal responsibility for our world and our life, for my world and my life. And and really our whole addictive society is based in escapism. Our whole government and how we've let it run rampant is built is this whole escapism thing, and it's just like it's time, and it's an individual. It's done one at a time, where everybody takes responsibility for their reality, for their life, for their experience. And if they don't like it, if I don't like my experience, now at least I have, and I'm one of those people that didn't know I had a choice. At least I know that I have a choice. I can either be frightened and go along with the ego and start judging, or I can let go of the fear and trust and rely on God and my Holy Spirit. I'm complete.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay, so we examine the problem a little bit more before we take the solution, the real alternative head on.
There is no choice where every end is sure. Perhaps you would prefer to try them all before you really learn they are but one. The roads this world can offer seem to be quite large in number, but the time must come when everyone begins to see how like they are to one another. Men have died on seeing this because they saw no way except the pathways offered by the world, and learning they led nowhere lost their hope. And yet this was the time they could have learned their greatest lesson. All must reach this point and go beyond it. It is true indeed, there is no choice at all within the world, but this is not the lesson in itself. The lesson has a purpose, and in this you come to understand what it is for.
So this is a really crucial turning point, the opportunity for a turning point. As it says, perhaps you would prefer to try every road the world offers. And there are examples of people who have done that, only to conclude at the end that they're still unhappy and thus lose all hope, having tried every path that they could access in their culture, their civilization. They still not being happy, they lost all hope. This actually can be a perceptual turning point. That is where you give up the search for solutions in this world. That's where you can then open yourself to the real alternative, the alternative offered by the Holy Spirit. So while some may reach the end of their rope, others will reach the point where they learn the lesson that all this was intended for. As it says here, all must reach this point and go beyond it. So this can be illustrated by hitting a bottom in one's life. It can be accompanied by depression, loss of all hope, loss of meaning, sometimes grief work after the loss of a lifelong spouse, inner emptiness enters in, one gives up all hope. These can be turning points in perception, but you have to be open to the possibility that there's a lesson that beyond the end of your rope. We would call it the greatest lesson, where there's a new sense of purpose. This is when I used to be a grief counselor. When an individual starts to emerge from grief, one of the signs is they have a new sense of wanting to do things, a new sense of purpose. They go from wanting to not do anything to being completely devoid of meaning in any experience, to having an interest in something once again, a new sense of purpose. And so this is, perhaps you've already reached that turning point in your life. We're just describing something that you've already experienced.
Why would you seek to try another road, another person, or another place, when you have learned the way the lesson starts, but do not yet perceive what it is for? Its purpose is the answer to the search that all must undertake who still believe there is another answer to be found. Learn now without despair. There is no hope of answer in the world. But do not judge the lesson that is but begun with this. Seek not another signpost in the world that seems to point to still another road. No longer look for hope where there is none. Make fast your learning now and understand you, but waste time unless you go beyond what you have learned to what is yet to learn.
Let's do that again.
Yeah. Make fast your learning now and understand you, but waste time unless you go beyond what you have learned to what is yet to learn. For from this lowest point will learning lead to heights of happiness, in which you see the purpose of the lesson shining clear and perfectly within your learning grasp.
Mm-hmm. I think the word learning appeared at least a half a dozen times there, because this is a curriculum in learning to let go of all that we had previously believed, all that we had learned in the past, and go beyond what you had learned to what is yet to learn. So we're going to frame what's beyond the end of your rope as a lesson, something, a shift in choosing, a shift in your mind. It's the use of the power of your mind to choose again. We'll frame it as a lesson, and a lesson, but it will emphasize once again that you can't reach that new lesson until you're willing to go beyond what you already believed in your past, willing to let go of your notion that you've already got an understanding or the answers. This is why we refer to emptying yourself of all your preconceived beliefs and meanings and judgments, so that you make room for a new perception to enter your mind. This is the essential change in mind that this entire course is based upon, is laying down your existing assessments so that you might be guided by the Holy Spirit. Sandra?
Oh, I just have to say this. I mean, I hope that we're all aware of what's happening in our country right now, where we're actually experiencing this. Opposites are uniting. We're looking at a new unity uh, um, party. It's like this, there's miracles going on all around us. I just hope we're aware of it.
Miracles are going on all around us. Thank you.
Who would be willing to be turned away from all the roadways of the world unless he understood their real futility? Is it not needful that he should begin with this, to seek another way instead? For while he sees a choice where there is none, what power of decision can he use? The great release of power must begin with learning where it really has a use. And what decision has power if it be applied in situations without choice? The learning that the world can offer but one choice, no matter what its form may be, in the beginning of acceptance that there is a real alternative instead. To fight against this step is to defeat your purpose here. You did not come to learn to find a road the world does not contain. The search for different pathways in this world is but the search for different forms of truth, and this would keep the truth from being reached.
Mm-hmm. So he said, you come to the end of your rope to learn a new lesson. What is that lesson? And this is where the beauty of the Holy Spirit's teachings comes through, because it's a simple lesson, and that is all the roads that the world offers are but the same outcome. It leads to trying to make illusions real, trying to find happiness and love in a set of illusions. And so this simplifies the matter. Instead of trying each and every road, as was suggested in the previous paragraph, and instead of trying every road that the world offers or every path that you can get your hands on, just save time. The Course in Miracles is about learning more quickly the lessons of healing. Save time by realizing that all paths of illusions lead but to one outcome: further illusions. And so, which is phrased here as the search for different forms of truth. This is a very ego-oriented teaching that everybody has their own truth, that we all have separate truths, and that there is no singular truth, that the truth is up for you to decide. And so, expressed in this metaphor, none of these roads that the world offers leads to lasting happiness, lasting peace. They all are, in that sense, the same. One more thing I wanted to point out that easily could be missed. It's about the use of the power of your mind. Specifically, in this context, the misuse of the power of your mind in an attempt to find happiness and peace in illusions. Many people don't realize that they're misusing their power. They're not conscious of it. They're not conscious that by putting your faith in a set of illusions and believing in them and pursuing them with your time in your life, that you're giving power to them. But what we do learn in this course is to start recognizing the misuse of our power and the repurposing of the power of our mind, the power of our choosing, to be in accord with the guidance of the Holy Spirit. For those of you that are newer, that may be harder to immediately sense in your own life. But as you practice the workbook lessons on a daily basis, you will catch yourself. You will notice where your mind is inclined to misuse power with grievances and with judgments, with separation, etc. And so when it says here, the great release of power must begin with learning where it really has a use. The reason why we have to release the power is because we've invested power previously poorly, referred to in other terms in A Course in Miracles as using the power of your mind to miscreate. And that becomes habitual, becomes routine. One can become identified with it. And so, and locked into a set of habits of misusing our power. So the great release of power is to realize there's an effective use of the power of choosing of your mind. It's in accord with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and it then aligns your power with the plan of salvation. Let's go on.
Think not that happiness is ever found by following a road away from it. This makes no sense and cannot be the way. To you who seem to find this course to be too difficult to learn, let me repeat that to achieve a goal, you must proceed in its direction, not away from it. And every road that leads the other way will not advance the purpose to be found. If this be difficult to understand, then is this course impossible to learn, but only then. For otherwise, it is a simple teaching in the obvious.
I missed the opportunity. I saw some hands up and I had already turned the page. Christoph, you had a comment?
Oh yeah, no, all what we've been reading right now reminds me of one of a situation I had, and I was already pretty deep into the course. I was into a conflict with someone, and I wanted to retaliate like I always did, the same thing. And a voice came into my head and said, "How many times you gonna do the same thing over and over?" That voice, and it lasted for because I was planning my retaliation, and that voice came into my mind, and I'm like, oh, wow, I don't need to do this anymore. And I dropped it. And the person I had in conflict with, I completely forgave whatever happened, whatever been said. And the past month after that, was amazing. I was planning to like separate and retaliate against this person, but I didn't. And at the end, I had a wonderful time with this person. It was amazing, and that's all he talks about. You know, like the things that we learned to do in the past, and we stop doing them as a wonderful result when we listen to the voice. So it was amazing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, brother, for sharing that. David Welton?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, as we were reading the last couple paragraphs, I really got how I have invested, and I invest every day, my power in my own self-concept, my own beliefs about the world, and my own illusions. So it's really got that I really have to learn to let go of everything I believe. And it's a continual process of overlearning the truth that I need to unlearn everything. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and stay tuned for our next section, which we'll cover tomorrow, and have more to say about at the end of our session today. Sandra?
So would you say that the confusion is based in that I am not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me? And that creates confusion because all of us are so identified with being bodies.
Yeah, the confusion is the misidentification of ourselves. Yes. As a matter of fact, that's what the next section is about. False sense of self will result inevitably in confusion, lack of purpose, lack of meaning, an inner emptiness. And so that is where it all begins, is a sense of what am I? Sometimes referred to as who am I, but more precisely, what is a human being? What am I doing here? Until we get clear on that, it becomes very difficult to escape from any kind of confusion.
And it's all about letting go of my body identification,
That's essential part of it, yes.
but still have a body experience. Very challenging.
Well, that's why we're not in this alone. We have help. Susie?
I had a very similar experience that Christoph just spoke about. And for me, I wasn't hearing a voice right away, but I was willing to repeat all my lessons. I'm only seeing the past. I can choose again. I was just using the first part of the workbook over and over and over again. And I was getting really, really quiet and praying. And what came to me was two things. And I believe the course, whether I can practice it or not, all the time. I believe with certainty that everything that the course says is true. So what came to me is, oh my goodness, everything is a cry for love or an act of love. And in the moment that I wanted to retaliate, as Christoph said, yeah, I wanted to be right, not peaceful. Absolutely. My ego wanted that. But then was like, oh, this is a cry for love. This is what the course tells me to do. And everything shifted for me then. In that moment, I was like, well, the course asks me to be a miracle worker, and it asks me to be a person of love and all of that. And I'm like, what is this for? This is a lesson God would have me learn. And it all became clear to me. I'm like Christoph said, it was just gone. All that ego retaliation and story making, and I was just at peace. And I could bring about peace and love and joy instead of everything the ego was planning. And it was an unbelievable experience. Yeah, so I just wanted to echo what he said, because we really are a choice, and all these other roads they're talking about takes me back to what I always got when I let my ego operate my life. It's a truly, like they say, an opposite experience. And I was able to bring the darkness to the light. Everything the course was telling me to do, I was doing. And I had a different experience, and it was just wonderful. And you know what? It's gone. It's like, just whatever I was planning, it's just gone. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. All right, couple more hands up. David S.
Thank you. Thank you. And hello, everybody. A lot of times what we report here and talk about is our experience from our side,
Yes.
like what Christoph just talked about and what Susie just talked about. So we talk about what we give, we get, and give love, to receive love and peace, teach peace to know peace. So I am going to report from the other side, because I was the recipient of the experience that Susie just talked about. And I was a person who was in great fear, who was needing love, wanting love, needing forgiveness. And Susie's actions, through using the course and through using her experience and having the experience she had, allowed me to have the same experience of freedom, of joy, of peace, because the action was out of pure love and God inspired, Holy Spirit inspired. And so what she gave, she received, and I received as well.
Thank you, brother. Yes, really helpful to hear both sides. Kathy, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I've studied a lot of other spiritual paths before coming to the course in 2015. The course has a key that none of the other spiritual paths had, but I used all of them and think about all of them. One of them was therapy, and I had an out-of-body near-death experience when I was 8. And I believe in the Lord's Prayer that heaven is intended to come to earth. And one of the quandaries I had with God was, how do I stay in this body if I had this blackout for the first 8 years of my life? How do I heal that? And I am experiencing healing right now, like the last few days, that I have never felt before. I feel like God has reached down to me, Archangel Raphael, and is healing me. And the experiences I've had of God in this studying these 9 years has been amazing. But I have prayed for this for everyone, all this healing, because I think it's there for all of us. And the course talks about heaven coming to earth. So I wanted to share that because I know I'm an eternal spirit. I know I'm not a body. However, this is my body. And if this is what I'm going to retain, I'm asking for healing. Time is for healing. And if we use our body as a holy instrument, it is holy. It's neutral. So it's not a bad thing. Yes, if it's egoic, it's egoic. But if it's good, if it's with truth and in alignment with God, then it is holy. So anyway, I wanted to share that. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. David W., you had your hand up.
For me, the confusion results from me thinking I know anything about anything. This is what I have to continually unlearn and let go of and turn over every minute of every day to the Holy Spirit. I don't know what anything means or is for. Otherwise, I'm just choosing different forms of the same illusion, making the same mistake over and over. And it can apply to my spiritual beliefs as well. It can be a spiritual egotism that I know the truth. And that's what I have to keep letting go of over and over during the day. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of the reasons why we have to overlearn it so that we don't fall back on resting on our past learning, but learn to ask on a regular basis. We're going to go on, and I'm going to have Kathy read that same paragraph again.
Think not that happiness is ever found by following a road away from it. This makes no sense and cannot be the way. To you who seem to find this course to be too difficult to learn, let me repeat that to achieve a goal, you must proceed in its direction, not away from it. And every road that leads the other way will not advance the purpose to be found. If this be difficult to understand, then is this course impossible to learn, but only then. For otherwise, it is a simple teaching in the obvious.
Yeah, so I emphasize this, the most important thing we're here learning. We're obviously, we have not achieved a perfection of mastery of our minds in being loyal to the guidance of the Holy Spirit under all conditions. But while we are learning, we make mistakes, we learn from our mistakes. The most important thing you can do is get the direction right. And if you do that consistently and apply and be willing on a daily basis to orient yourself to the right direction, the outcome is inevitable. It'll take care of itself. But so this is why we ask ourselves in each situation, what is this for? So that we orient our direction, that we're here for the purposes of forgiveness, for healing, to be helpful to others in their healing. And when you're clear on that, it sets your direction up. You may need to remind yourself of it again and again, but it sets your direction up and it gives a meaning and a purpose to your choosing.
There is a choice that you have power to make when you have seen the real alternatives. Until that point is reached, you have no choice, and you can but decide how you would choose the better to deceive yourself again. This course attempts to teach no more than that the power of decision cannot lie in choosing different forms of what is still the same illusion and the same mistake. All choices in the world depend on this. You choose between your brother and yourself, and you will gain as much as he will lose, and what you lose is what is given him. How utterly opposed to truth is this, when all the lesson's purpose is to teach that what your brother loses, you have lost, and what he gains is what is given you.
Mm-hmm. So this is really interesting because last week, Jerry asked about free will, and we briefly touched on the concept introduced in the Course of Miracles of imprisoned will versus free will. And now in this paragraph, it goes, sheds some light further on that point. Imprisoned will is believing that you can choose a path of illusions and find something that will make you happy and bring satisfaction. It's a notion that all the alternatives in the world, eventually one of them is going to work for you. That's what we call an imprisoned will. Yes, you get to choose whether your path will be riches or fame or something else, adventure, but that choice is locked into a matrix that ultimately leads only to disappointment. And then you but decide how you would choose the better to deceive yourself again, meaning you then go about trying to find another path that maybe that one will be more likely. This is what we call the appearance of free will, but which is actually imprisoned. And but there is a free will, but it lies outside those set of choices that the world offers. It lies instead it's a real alternative that says that you're never going to find happiness through the pathways of the world, that your happiness lies within yourself, and that you'll find it within inner peace, inner happiness.
He has not left his thoughts, but you forgot his presence and remembered not his love. No pathway in the world can lead to him, nor any worldly goal be one with his. What road in all the world will lead within, when every road was made to separate the journey from the purpose it must have, unless it be but futile wandering? All roads that lead away from what you are will lead you to confusion and despair. Yet has he never left his thoughts to die without their source forever in themselves. He has not left his thoughts. He could no more depart from them than they could keep him out. In unity with him do they abide, and in their oneness both are kept complete. There is no road that leads away from him. A journey from yourself does not exist. How foolish and insane it is to think that there could be a road with such an aim. Where could it go? And how could you be made to travel on it, walking there without your own reality at one with you?
You know, over 2,000 years ago, Socrates taught, know thyself, come to know what you truly are. And that message is no less powerful today than it was 2,400 years ago. And yet people still struggle with it. And part of it is following roads that lead away from what you are. The world offers a set of roads. It seems to be many choices, some of them decorated very nicely, that lead you away from your true self. That is the purpose of the world, to lead you away from your true self until you come to the end of your rope and you realize that all those roads are but roads away from yourself. And this is the big lesson. You see them all as essentially not different in character because they all lead you away from yourself. And so the correction to that is then you take up in earnest the road within towards your true self. And there you discover a richness and a depth of your true self. Now, we're not talking about your body, nor are we really talking about the ordinary conscious awareness that you have most of the time. We're talking about, at the very minimum, the level of your soul, the part of you that is willing to join with the Holy Spirit, willing to learn anew under the Holy Spirit's guidance. We're talking at a minimum your soul, and what we're most referring to is the divine light that you were created as, your inner light, your eternal self, your changeless self, your most holy self. That is where your inner peace abides forever, unchanged. And this course is intended to help you correct the error of giving your power away to paths in the world and repurposing that power to becoming conscious once again, to remembering once again the inner light that exists within you, which is what leads us into this paragraph about he has not left his thoughts. David, you had your hand up?
Just because you talked about Socrates, I think this was his quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's actually my high school yearbook quote, and I keep realizing the truth of it. I think Socrates said, "The only thing I know for sure is that I don't know anything."
True. And then that theme was reaffirmed by Rene Descartes in modern Western philosophy in his method of doubt, where he basically he realized that there was nothing he could be sure about except that I think, therefore I am. And he reconstructed his entire view of the world based upon that singular premise. And so, yes, these are principles that people have realized, but have largely not been well absorbed by the population at large.
I just want to add that while I know the only thing I know for sure is that I don't know anything, I don't know, I feel deep love within my soul. And I feel that's the only reality that I can depend upon, is the deep love that I feel inside of me.
Nice. Now that's a solid foundation. Sandra?
And I think David, you bring up a very good point. Humility is so important for us, not to be a spiritual ego and to, use the truth as a weapon.
Yes. So there in these two paragraphs here, they are referring to his thoughts, capital H, capital T. This has a meaning in the context of the Course in Miracles as the thoughts of God. And there is a way of understanding this, a framework that says your essence, how you were created, you were originally a thought in God's mind. He thought of you, and that's how you were created. What remains true is you are still a thought in God's mind. He has not forgotten you, And that thought is pure and innocent and holy and complete and loving. This is what we would call your inner light. This is your true and eternal self. And so those thoughts and the laws of mind say that thoughts leave not their source, that those thoughts were in God's mind when he created you and they've not left. Therefore, you remain and always shall remain a thought within the holy mind of God, and a loving thought. And Course in Miracles is here to help undo any belief that would be contrary to that. Any belief, any guilt, any judgments, any frameworks that might obscure this most holy relationship between what you essentially are and the Creator's plan for everything. So and so we would say you being a thought in God's mind, their oneness are both kept complete. This is where we are part of the totality. So David S., you'll recall we spoke about this a number of times before. In God's plan, in his mind, everything is whole and complete because you are a perfect thought within his mind. All this activity and time and space where we get confused and forget and everything, these are but temporal conditions. They are not enduring and therefore are not a part of reality. They are a part of a passing illusion. And so he continues to regard us as complete and whole and loving and beautiful. It's only in ego thinking that we believe otherwise. Susie?
I just wanted to say, it just reminds me of the introduction that only love is real. Only love is real. And you just said it. Everything else is a passing illusion. So if I'm in any situation, if I'm willing, I just know that only the laws of God are real here, and everything else is a passing illusion. You know, I can choose to join with it in my ego identity, but it's not real. And if I let it go, it just dissipates like the clouds, but the love stays. So that's how I try to navigate, you know, like a situation that my ego is trying to cling to. This is not love, so this isn't real. It's from the lower self, period. And by the way, I pull up that chair and I put that person next to me in that chair and I say, in that person's higher self, would this ever occur? No, never. Because we're all the same. We're all of one mind. We're all a thought of God. We're all perfect, whole, and complete. So I know it's a hard thing to adjust to or to to take in after all these decades of, learning something else. But this is the path we're doing. We're unlearning what we've learned. So if I can keep that in my mind, only love is real, it's a good place to be.
It is indeed. Julie, you had your hand?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. My experience is that doing the course, practicing the course felt uncomfortable, unknowable, unfamiliar. And today I see the gift of choice making, and I see the power of choice making that lives inside of me. Again, it's already here. I didn't find it someplace else and then go get it. The course helped me to realize that it was already built into me. That's my experience. And it asks me to put down all the conditions I might impose, all the fears my fellows might impose. It asks me to act as though I'm having a limitless experience of Holy Spirit. And that is a choice for me. That isn't something that like happened to me. That's something that I choose. And the great thing about that is, in my experience of choosing, I can do it again and again. And I can also tell another person who lives in their body, hey, this was my experience. It happened to me. My experience of this is that it's a choice, which means I can give it away. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you, Julie. That was powerful testimony. Don't let me forget our public service. Let's do our public service announcement now. That's what I'm going to call it. Tomorrow, we are going to be discussing a section in the Course of Miracles called Self-Concept versus Self. I've heard a number of people say when they read something in A Course of Miracles, it cracked open the mystery, it unlocked the themes, and everything became clear. Well, I am here to tell you this is a section that did that for me, where all of a sudden I realized something that was always there, but I was not recognizing it. A theme within A Course in Miracles that's there right from page 1, but I was unconscious and blind to it. And it has to do with the difference between the way we perceive ourselves and the way we really are. And this is perhaps depth psychology, a graduate course in depth psychology of knowing thyself, knowing who you really are. But first, we have to become alert to the form the illusions take. Because if we're not alert to the form of the illusions, we might just decide that the illusion is real. And that would lead us into not knowing who we really are and not even asking the question about who we really are. So we've got to look at the illusory self-concept so that we can then, just like all these roads that we're looking at today, we have to recognize that they are illusory and come to the end of that and see them all as the same, so that we might be able to go beyond them. That will be tomorrow. If you can't be here for the actual session, catch us on video. We'll be posting that within 30 minutes after we finish the session.
Forgive yourself your madness and forget all senseless journeys and all goalless aims. They have no meaning. You cannot escape from what you are, for God is merciful and did not let his son abandon him. For what he is, be thankful, for in that is your escape from madness and from death. Nowhere but where he is can you be found. There is no path that does not lead to him.
Nowhere but where he is can you be found. And so finding yourself, this is a lead in to the next section, finding your true eternal self that was created as the Creator created you and who is still in the same pristine, holy state as the Creator originally thought of you. And so we will pick that up again tomorrow. No need to pursue all those other paths that the world may offer. The path within is the path that will free us and save time so that we can more quickly learn the lesson that the Holy Spirit has to teach us about our true self. That's as far as we're going to read today. I want to thank you all for your sharing and thank you for your attention to this. We're coming to a grand finale here. It feels that way to me. For me, here we are at the last 10 pages of the textbook, and that's the thing that cracks it open for me. I'm looking forward for us being able to share that together, and wish you many miracles along your journey until then. Namaste.
Thank you, Jonica. Thank you, Kathy, for reading. Thank you. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste. Love you all.
Namaste,
Namaste,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Jonica.
Good to
Jonica,
see
do
you.
you have a moment
For
now?
reading, Kathy.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure, Noel. Hang on,
everyone.
hang on, where people say their goodbyes and drop off.
Hey, Jonica,
Yeah,
before we go, Julie and I are going to switch this weekend. I'll read tomorrow and Julie's going to read on Monday.
okay.
Because I have a conflict on Monday.
You two
All right.
already worked that out. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking care of that. Yeah.
All right. No worries.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye, David.